Hey everyone, welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Brittany Lee.
Fuego here.
Marcia Marker.
Back with another review for you guys. This is an advanced review for the new sequel and addition to overall horror movie universe, The Conjuring. This is Annabelle Creation. So, as I said, this is a sequel to... Well,
No.
it's
Technically,
technically not. It's a prequel
to the prequel.
To the prequel, exactly. Yes, the last Annabelle movie was a prequel to The Conjuring, and this is now, in turn, a prequel to the previous Annabelle. Very much so, as a matter of fact. So, but we'll do this as we do all the other reviews, which is talk overall opinions, talk about story, talk about acting and effects and all that good stuff in turn. But overall, I'm going to say that I definitely did enjoy it way more than the first one. I thought that David F. Sandberg, is that right?
That's his name, the director. Lights Out guy.
Yeah, I thought this was much better than Lights Out. I thought it was much more successful to me. And I thought that the story was a little bit thin, but honestly, we got as much story as we really needed for all the kind of terror that we got out of this. So overall, I really enjoyed this one.
Mm-hmm.
Britt?
Overall, I thought it was great. I loved the way they were able to build tension and then release it for you instead of just this constant build of tension thing where they let it go and you'd have these moments where you're like,
Mm-hmm.
And I teared up more than a couple of times. There was
Really?
I was like, oh man, yeah. I was like, oh, that was freaking terrifying.
Wow. Yeah, I don't think Susie would have done very well in this movie after watching her in The Conjuring 2.
Not at all. Not at all.
This yeah.
Fuego?
Overall, I didn't see the original Annabelle. I did not hear good things about it from many people, so I was anticipating the Ouija Origin of Evil effect. While I did enjoy that movie better, I still thought this was pretty effective, and there was some thinness to it, like you mentioned, and there's a lot of cliche conveniences of naivety and whatnot, but overall, once the terror really got going, I was surprised at where they pushed it, and I was impressed. It's definitely R-rated with the, kind of scare level. So yeah, it was good. I had fun with it. So, Marcia?
I enjoyed it too. I think you're gonna have to forget about getting the Annabelle that you want because you're not gonna get it. And I do think they did a better job than the first prequel that they did. And they did tie things together, which I wasn't expecting because I thought it was going to be more of a reboot than a tie-in, but it definitely was a tie-in.
Mm-hmm.
It was a tie-in.
Which actually made me think that it lost some points because of it.
Really? Okay.
Just because I hated the first one so much,
Yeah.
probably. But if you just let go of the fact that you're not gonna get it's not a typical doll story. It is a possession story, and just enjoy it for what it is. I think you will like it because they did a good job with the scares.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, let's getting into the story then. It starts off with a orphanage of young girls that is being moved to a new building, and they're being sort of instructed by Sister whatever
Charlotte?
Charlotte.
And they actually move into the rather large house of this couple who we see at the beginning of the movie that you also see in the trailer.
Yep.
And so they are housing the girls, and the girls are sort of getting used to it, and there's two girls you focus on sort of in particular, and one of them has a leg brace, so she has trouble getting around, and they actually have a sort of one of those motion seats on the staircase for her and things
Gremlin
like that.
Style.
Yeah, exactly. And then she's friends with this other little girl who, again, you saw in the trailers.
A little awkward.
Yeah. But they're close friends. But when they move in, the one with the leg brace sort of starts to have weird stuff happen to her, and she starts following voices or things like that, and she eventually comes across the hidden away Annabelle doll, and once that happens, the badness is let out, so to speak, and things slowly start to happen. Like, that is nice. There is a ramp up. But then, you know, as more and more people start to get exposed to the evil, there's less and less room for doubting her. And I'm trying not to spoil too much, but there is, you know, a sort of a resolution by the end of the movie, just like there is in the Conjuring movies. So I thought it was a very successful story, even if it was a bit thin. Because again, once you meet all the girls and all the players, and after the first like 20-30 minutes, there's no real other place to go except watching the rest of it play out, you know, watch the horror unfold. Exactly. So outside of the thinness, I thought it was very successful in the story they set out to tell. Britt?
Yeah, they told exactly the story they wanted to tell. I don't think they were trying to go any deeper than what they did. It was all about the scares, the tension, and the suspense, and they did a really good job at that. They got me with their jump scares. They built good tension. Like I said, they had a few times where I was like, holy crap.
Was it enough for you, story-wise?
There was enough story there to get through to all the scares, to get through to the horror part of the story, I thought. And even with the way they ended it, you know, the way they end a lot of horror stories, it was satisfying. Satisfying enough, anyways.
Yeah, I'm actually right there with you on that. It was satisfying enough. I liked it, but I didn't love it. But I enjoyed it nonetheless. It was too by the books for me a lot of the time. But you know, once things got amped up and going in the third act, they pushed it where I wasn't necessarily expecting. But I still was irked at the paper thinness of some of the characters, the naivety of a lot of these characters, and also just some of the logic of, without spoiling anything, the powers of this presence that's going after them. It's like, oh, 1 minute it can open doors, and then the next minute it can't open certain doors. And so there was just certain things like that just bugged me a little bit. But nonetheless, it was effective and beautifully shot, and you know, so but that doesn't have anything to do with the story, obviously. I'm kind of aggravated at that I didn't see the original Annabelle, like, because I wanted to see maybe what you guys are implying they tied in. I'm thinking maybe something in the end of the film.
You did. It was trailer
you
stuff.
saw it. It was
Okay.
it was
It
tied
was
in
trailer stuff.
from other Conjuring movies.
Well,
No, the very end was
something from the
directly
first Annabelle
out
trailer.
That's
Is that
what I
what it
figured.
was?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they also had the other tie-in too from the picture.
They did.
That was
They
that
did.
was
That was unexpected.
That was from something that's still to come in this spin-off
that was
series.
awesome.
I thought that was dope.
fun.
Yeah,
That was
like
a
that.
sweet.
That was
I
cool.
like that they're making it a
Yeah.
literal universe, like a big overall thing.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
And I did like the chemistry of the two girls, and I kind of felt for them, the fact that the orphanage girls were very cliquey, and the two that were the outcasts, I really sympathized with them, especially the girl who, you know, was afflicted with this polio and couldn't walk and stuff. Like, I legitimately, you know, sympathized with her character and felt really bad for her, as you were supposed to. It was kind of cliched in the pulling on the heartstrings, but aside from that, pretty effective. So.
I honestly didn't think they gave us enough of the characters for me to care about any of the characters.
Okay.
I mean, I thought they served a purpose, and as catalysts and
Facilitating the horror.
making things happen and getting it out there. And I think the movie did move rather quickly, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But because they're just like, okay, here is everybody. Now everybody, terror, you know. It was a little fast. The biggest thing that I liked about the movie just was how they executed the scare tactics, and that it was very effective. But the story overall was, it's kind of what I expect now for them for this Annabelle series. I wasn't very happy with the first one. I didn't think it made a lot of sense, and this one I'm just kind of like, okay, they try to make it a little bit cooler, but Annabelle's story is just really not that interesting to me. I think it's pretty weak.
There's only so far you can polish certain things.
Yeah, it did feel very B-grade Conjuring, you know, in a lot of ways.
Well, let's...
Especially after, like, the Crooked Man and things
Yeah.
like that.
I
like,
love the second
Crooked
one
Man,
so
oh my
much.
God.
Like,
the second Conjuring
you
was
just
great.
kind of want more from them than
Yeah.
what they gave. Like, I think they did a good job putting
But
the
it was
movie
a step
together.
up again. The first Purge movie I did not like. The second Purge movie, I was like, okay, that's more in line. Maybe the third Annabelle movie will be like the third Purge movie that I really like.
Are they going to do the prequel to the prequel to the prequel?
Who knows? It would make sense.
The prequel.
There's yet another girl named Annabelle that had something happen. But no, okay. So let's move into the acting real quick, and then I definitely want to get into the scares of it all. But I thought the acting was serviceable. I thought a couple of the girls were a little too the one they leaned on so much, the shorter haired one. She's just a little too wide eyed at times for me. But
she actually reminded me a lot of the girl in Ouija Origin of Evil.
Yeah, I thought so too.
In appearance too, the eyes.
Literally.
And
I was like, is that the same girl? Like, I was trying to figure it out. I was like, why do I feel like I've seen her in something already? But yeah, I thought the acting was serviceable, but didn't knock me out.
I thought the acting of the one girl the crippled girl.
Amen.
She
was the
good.
standout.
Yeah, she did. She stood out from the crowd. She did an A+ job, and she had a lot to do.
She did. She had a lot to chew on.
Yeah. And I thought she handled it well.
Indeed. She was the only character for me that had any weight whatsoever. You know, everybody else was just pretty bland and boring to me, especially like the two who own the house, without spoiling anything like that. I mean, it was just like...
They just weren't given that much to do.
Very little. And also the head, like, nun, who was, Lady Charlotte or whatever the hell. I was just... Sister Charlotte. Yeah, she was as paper thin as anything, too. And, I mean, just some of the stuff she was saying, I mean, obviously, once again, it's like, you can't really exude that impressive of a performance with a script that's so just kind of but... Yeah, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So,
Marsha, any acting likes or dislikes?
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I think that they had a good cast. It just wasn't enough for them to really do to really make any sort of outstanding revelations for anybody else. I think really the champion in this movie was just the directing and the set design and the special effects.
Which is a good segue,
and the sound design. I think those were the champions of this movie. I think everything else kind of fell to the wayside. Because you're going to have to give up on story and acting in order to enjoy this movie.
And they really did in the third act, in my opinion. They just ran with the horror.
They're like, we're just going to scare the shit out of you. And it's like, okay.
Well, then let's roll the rest of it in together. Because honestly, the effects, the sound design, and the scares all worked in unison, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, there were so many tense moments and so many actual... and I wouldn't call them jump scares.
No.
That's what was nice. They were actual, genuinely like terrifying sort of setups and payoffs, and indeed payoffs, not just the sheep being pulled away and nothing being there necessarily. Like there was a lot of really cool things that was like, damn, you just got like an extra little, things that you've seen done in other movies, done better and done like to that extra level, I think. And especially, I can't wait to talk about. I think we should do a spoilers section, or spoilers review rather, too, because there's a couple things I want to talk about, but I don't want to spoil it here. That did have to do with the effects, certain uses of shadow and light in shadow, and the way things moved. I just thought that they did a really good job of making me tense for what was going to happen next. Like, I kept shifting in my seat a little bit, and I did notice Fuego, like, leaning forward a couple times.
There was a couple scenes in particular that kind of got me a little bit, man.
Yeah, so, I don't know, what did you guys think of all the scares?
There was more than a few times where I was like, no.
More so than a lot of horror movies I've seen you watch.
Yes. This one had me highly involved. There were a few moments where I'm just like, you're being loud. Shut up. Being rude to everyone else in the theater.
I don't know. I was screaming and hitting Cecil.
Yeah, literally, she hit me twice.
I did. I was like, stop it.
I was like, I didn't make it. I don't know what's going to happen either.
Yeah.
No, she was screaming.
Yeah, I screamed. I was like, oh my
side.
God. Yeah. It was effective.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, that's what we really go to these movies for. It can't all be like The Conjuring 2, where there is just amazingly deep characters and, the chemistry and everything. This movie didn't really have it in those cards, but it was effective where it needed to be effective. And that was where, not even so much jump scares, like you said, there was like, I guess beats, as I would call them. There were some legitimately scary beats in this movie that I tensed up. I really was on edge, as you saw. With the
literally.
I was just like,
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
How's it gonna play out? How's it gonna play out?
Yep.
And that's why we see these movies at the end of the day. So.
One of the things I think they were really successful, kind of going back to the set design, was the little girl's room.
Yeah.
Because they totally
Fucking
used
puppets.
it. Oh, they used it so well.
Oh, they did a really good job
and plus it was a period piece, so you had all those old type of dolls and toys and just everything about it,
which I honestly find creepy. Those
so creepy. And it was a memorial of their dead daughter. So, and how they used it was so effective. It was really cool. You even had the secret closet.
Yeah. There's good misdirected scares too. Like that some of the stuff that went on in that room, and when there was some stuff with the flashlight, and like there was a lot of really effective scares. So much so that, quite honestly, I did think to myself at one point, because I was in it also. Like, I was really, that's why I say, like, once the scares started, they really didn't let go. Like, even when it went to daytime, shit happened. Like, that's a nice change. And
that was one point where I felt like okay, it like almost like you can like, and you're like, okay, things are tranquil, things are gonna be okay.
Right, you're safe now because it's light.
It's daylight,
We can take
and that moment jolted me. I was like, Jesus, what? Oh, and not only that, but I gotta say, the very beginning, even though I saw, you could literally see coming a mile away what was happening. But when it happened, I yelled. I was like, Jesus Christ! And I was like, oh, that's the kind of movie I'm in for. Okay. But yeah, man, the scares were there, and what I was getting at was, since it started and it just sort of didn't let go with the scares, even between daytime, nighttime, whatever. I thought at one point, I thought to myself, I'm like, this is almost like too much. Like it's sort of like a marathon kind of thing dealing with this.
Yeah.
Like it was a genuinely good roller coaster, and there were so many tense, scary scenes that it was just like, wow, they crammed like there was maybe a third or a fourth or a fifth even the amount of scares in Lights Out to me than there was in this.
Yeah.
R-rated versus PG-13,
Well,
and this had a couple scenes
But
there
was only one that I think the R played a factor.
Yeah, and that was where there was gore I wasn't anticipating in this movie.
Right.
At all.
At all,
Yeah,
me
it
either.
was the goriest scene in the movie.
Which is
too.
why when it happened, I was like,
wow, all
damn! Like, yeah.
I was like, they went there, all right.
It kind of came out of nowhere, too, which was kind of like...
Well, throws you off guard in another way.
It almost felt like too much to me, but...
But it was effective.
It was
effective. That's the thing. This movie was effective.
Yeah, for sure.
If you definitely are in the mood of just getting scared, go watch this movie because it's worth it, and don't expect it to be like
an amazing story or anything.
It's
just experience the fear.
It's
gonna be
good
fun.
Straight up horror, and that's
And listen to go see it with a big crowd, because listening to the rest of the crowd was great. Like, there was some people that were genuinely freaked out.
There was applause at the end of the movie theater. You know how long it's been since I've heard applause at the end of a
There was applause at the end of a trailer.
There was. Yeah.
Outside of Dave Made a Maze. You know how long it's been since I've heard applause at a horror movie? In the theater?
Yeah, people really liked it.
Oh my gosh, it was awesome.
Conjuring 2.
Yeah, probably.
Oh, I didn't see that one in theater.
Well, yeah, guys, I think this one's definitely worth your theater money.
Yeah, see it over the weekend.
Don't expect a deep thing, but go in ready to jump and get creeped out, because it was successful at that for sure.
Yeah, and it's worth watching with a group of people.
That's the highest enjoyment level I think you'll find.
Absolutely. So,
unless you watch it alone in like a dark room by yourself, but you can't do that for a while unless you're a hacker or something, or a pirate.
And if you do, let us know if you survive.
Let us know in the comments down below if you guys haven't seen this. Is this more likely to make you want to go, or are you still going to wait on it? Let us know what your thoughts are on it. If you did see it, let us know down below what you thought of it, and don't spoil it for anyone, not here at least. We're going to go ahead and do a quick spoiler discussion separate from this, so go ahead and join us there if you did watch the movie and listen to what we have to say about it, or if you don't care. A lot of people like our spoiler reviews even before the movie's out. People are like, I couldn't wait, I just wanted to know. So
what is with you people?
It happens, but we will do that in just a second. But for now, thanks very much for watching. I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Brittany Lee.
Gracias, Oppenheimer, Fuego.
I'm Rushberger.
And remember,
Stay
scared.